Hey there, coaches. I'm Rich Prado, owner of Play in School and host of Travel Ball Talk, where I talk to travel ball coaches from the best organizations about the current and future state of travel baseball. Today's guest is David Amaro, GM of the Philly Bandits. Amaro is without a doubt one of my favorite guys in the world of travel baseball. If you already know him, you likely know why. If you don't already know him, I'm excited to get to share this conversation with you. I hope you enjoy this episode of Travel Ball Talk. Okay, on the call with me today is the owner, founder, GM of the Philly Bandits, David Amaro. David, I want to welcome you to the call. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy life. We have some people who are going to be on this podcast who are baseball only guys, but I know you're not a baseball only guy. You got a busy corporate life, so I appreciate you taking time, and we might maybe we'll talk about that a little bit too. So I appreciate your time today.
Great to be here, Rich. Thanks for having me.
So the Philly Bandits, obviously based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and if you look at the roster, these guys are all from a stone's throw away from each other. This is not one of the kind of like the new school of travel baseball with guys from, hundreds or thousands of miles apart. This is a team I've been familiar with for a long time, but there is a chance that some people in the travel ball world, even at a high level, maybe don't know the Philly Bandits, and we'll talk about the team itself in a little bit, but I bet they recognize your last name. And I'll kind of give a little bit of a hint. Baseball is a family business for you guys, isn't it? Do you mind kind of going into your a little bit of your family background and why baseball is a family business and kind of lead into the Philly Bandits a little bit?
Absolutely. My pleasure. So my father, actually my grandfather, played professional baseball in Cuba and then in Mexico. And my father, Ruben Amaro Sr., got discovered in the Pan American Games many years ago and was signed to play professional baseball. And when we grew up, Dad played for the Philadelphia Phillies and for the New York Yankees, played about 11 years in the major leagues. And we've resided in the Philadelphia area all our lives. But the one thing that, we learned, I have a younger brother, Ruben, who was a very talented baseball player, and my dad always instilled in us, because he wasn't able to do it. He really wanted us to get a college degree. He wanted us to be the best students that we could be, because he really didn't get a chance to do that coming from another country. He learned how to speak English fluently, and he had been in baseball for over 50 years prior to him passing last year. He was a manager, coach, player in the big leagues. He was a Latin American coordinator, scout, and he was a special assignment advisor for several clubs. So that was his business, and that's what we knew growing up. That's what Dad did. Fortunately, we did listen to him and did as well as we could academically, and got a chance to go to a private school in the Philadelphia area called William Penn Charter School. And that led Ruben Jr. and I to be able to. We were pretty good baseball players. We were very competitive, and I got a chance to go to Duke University on a baseball scholarship, play down there, and get a degree in psychology at Duke. And my brother Ruben, who was really exceptional and a really talented young player. I mean, literally threw the baseball both hands. He was ambidextrous.
Wow.
So he still does that. He throws BP both ways, which is very odd. But he plays the outfield, throws left-handed, plays the infield right-handed. Ruben got a chance to go to Stanford University and graduated from there with a human biology degree. So we did fairly well academically. But the big thing that we realized was that baseball opened up doors. Baseball opened up some doors for us that we otherwise would not have had, and we took that to heart. And that's really where we decided after, I played professional baseball afterwards in the minor leagues with the Chicago Cubs organization, got hurt, and started my business career. Ruben Jr., after playing for 5 years in the major leagues with a few different teams, was the assistant general manager for the Phillies, and then the senior vice president and general manager for the Phillies for 7 years. And then he was not renewed a few years ago and decided to do something very different and became a coach on the field for the Boston Red Sox and now with the New York Mets. He really wants to ultimately manage on the field, and then obviously, if something doesn't go right, you can really be blamed. It's a little harder when you're up in the office, So he's really enjoying being on the field. So with that said, I run a marketing agency, but my passion is baseball, and I like to give back. And we started the Philly Bandits program, 20 years ago, actually. 20 years ago, we had every age group, 8, 9, 10, 12, 16. We had literally teams at every age group. And what I found was it was a little bit difficult to manage the coaches. I wasn't thrilled with some of the coaches that we had at the different age groups. So 8 years ago, we decided we're going to focus on 9 years ago, we're going to focus on the recruiting age players and try to give them some guidance, put them in a competitive environment, and stress the academic side of things so that they had opportunities that they may not otherwise have had. So one thing I will say is a lot of our teams are, we really have a lot of very highly academic players that are also talented. But we have a 13U team, we have a 16U, 17U, and we actually have a 22 and under team as well, which essentially is for those young men that need to do an internship in Philly, or they need to be home and they can't go play in one of the larger sanctioned college leagues. So we have a spot for them to play and develop and get their innings and at bats. But with that said, and one of the things that are a little different about what we do are as Rich said, our players are from southeastern Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. Some in Philadelphia, but they're not from very far away. They're within an hour of each other, and we build teams, and they learn to work together, and they practice together in the off season and build camaraderie. I ask them to, they have to bring their report cards in. Our coaches go through that to make sure that they're doing what they need to do academically, so that they're even more desirable, athletically. So we really focus on that, and that's something that my dad had instilled in Reuben Jr. and myself, and that's what we try to bring to the Philly Bandits organization. We have a lot of former professional players and big league guys that are around our players and teach them and really help them understand how they should act, how to respect the game, and that there's an additional tool besides the 5 tools that we all know, and it's really baseball smarts and baseball acumen. We really try to instill that in the guys so that they separate themselves when college recruiters are looking at them and they say, well, this kid, he knows how to win, he knows how to bust it down the line, and he's dressed appropriately, he looks good, he's clean shaven, he's the kind of guy that we want to have in our program. So we emphasize that, and we've had some success. A lot of our kids have graduated from college. Several are playing professionally and have played professionally, and some in the big leagues. So we're proud of that, and we're proud of the fact that we give them a forum to really excel and learn and play, against other competition, outside the area. So that's really the story of the Philly Bandits.
All right, we're going to talk about the Bandits some more, but I can't let you go on too much longer without finishing the point on the family business here. Now, I believe at least one of your boys is following in that family business, right?
Yes, I didn't expand on them. So both my sons, one had the privilege of playing at the University of Virginia, and the other one at University of Maryland, and finished at the University of Tampa after a coaching change. And one of my sons, was married a gal from the University of Virginia, and they're doing extremely well. Moved out to San Francisco, living in the tech world. But my younger son, Andrew, his passion is baseball and coaching, and he is now coaching at the LaSalle University, a smaller D1 program in the Philadelphia area, and he really enjoys it. So he's continuing to coach in baseball, and he's doing a nice job.
That's
so
awesome.
Fun to watch.
The legacy continues. Now, I will tell you, I'm keeping the streak alive. Both of my parents are Cuban, and one of the recent calls I had with another coach, Richie Palmer from Elite Squad, he's of Cuban descent too. So I might limit this call to this will be coaches of just Cuban descent. We might run out of coaches soon, but it's pretty cool to hear stories of other guys who had similar paths as me, and because not that many folks in little old Richmond, Virginia, who are
No.
who are sons of Cuban immigrants. That's pretty cool.
True.
The Bandits now, like you were saying, are just focused on the older age groups. Have you found that you've had any struggles pulling that elite guy without having a feeder program, or has that not been an issue for you over the last few years?
I always worry about that, but we don't like to have tryouts. And I'll give you an example. In this fall, our coaches, giving me a lot of grief and the other thing is our coaches are really talented folks, and we are very different in that they're all volunteers, and we try to keep the cost very reasonable. And we put a lot of money into it so that we can do the things we need to do. But with that, so I just wanted to mention that. But so we realized we have to have a tryout for the 16U and 17U, and we were bombarded. We didn't advertise it, and that's the problem. I mean, we had 100 and some kids come out. We have 2 teams. We generally keep 18 players on a team. We could have filled 4, 5, 6 teams at those age groups. Yeah. But the only reason I don't have, we have 4 or 5 coaches on each of our staffs, and we have older guys and younger guys and guys that just played and guys that are learning how to coach. I just don't have enough to manage and coach appropriately, or we would have more teams than we do. So, so that's the deal.
I'm assuming, I'm hoping that this hits the ears of some younger coaches who are hopefully going to pick up little nuggets from the conversations that we're having. And I will have conversations with coaches who run enormous organizations from the 7 or 8 year old level up through the 18U level or beyond, and they have 7 to 10 teams at every age group, and that's great. That's great for them. Listen, I'm not for or against either version. It's just different. There's different models, and for the guy who's getting into it, they need to figure out where do they fit. And for you guys, you obviously figured out, almost a decade ago that you wanted to, zero in on that older age group and keep it to just 1 or 2 teams. It used to be you were just like 1 team at each age group for a while, and now you're doing a couple. I think it's pretty refreshing to see your self-awareness and not be tempted to just keep those 100, 120 guys who come out to the tryout, because that would be easy to do, right? But then that comes with some repercussions that maybe you don't want. Despite keeping your numbers low, you've had some pretty good success as far as individual talent coming through the program. One of the names that kind of jumps off the page to me was a kid named Nolan Jones a couple years ago. Tell us a little bit about Nolan. What was his deal, and where is he now?
Well, Nolan is, first of all, what a super young man, number one, and just one of those really talented. He's a hockey player, ice hockey. His brother's playing hockey and was drafted and is playing at Penn State. They do it a little differently in hockey, but Nolan, two-way guy. I mean, on the mound, throws 92, 93 miles an hour, tall right-hander. He's listed at 6'4", but he's every bit of 6'5", 210. Left-handed hitter, right-handed thrower, a very good student. Was at William Penn Charter School and finished at Holy Ghost Prep. Was a University of Virginia recruit, and he was looking forward to going to the University of Virginia. And he wasn't planning on playing professionally at this point, and wanted to go to Virginia, and they just paid him so much money that he needed to sign, you know, because obviously, and pay his education. So he, second year, year and a half, I think he hit 19 home runs this past year in mid-A. He's probably going to go to high A this following year. He's with the Cleveland Indians organization. He works hard. He's a great kid, and you called it. I remember, Rich, several years ago. You were videoing him, and you said this kid's going to be something else. And he was like a thin, wiry kind of guy, and he did. You called that, and he really, he grew, he advanced, he worked hard, and he can really swing it.
What?
So they moved. He was a giant shortstop that they moved to third base.
Yeah,
and that's where he'll probably be.
And I don't like to turn these calls into like brag fest on different players. Every organization has great players. He's just one that really kind of stood out to me. And I don't know if you remember this. We ran into him, or he came into the facility last winter as we were wrapping up our filming session with your guys. And the thing that just stood out was the difference in size. And I'm not talking about his height. I'm talking about his thickness, his build. He had grown so much from 12 months before. And that's what a little bit of maturity and time in the weight room and eating properly, and also just becoming a man, just makes you get big. And this guy, he was no longer a kid, and he was probably all of 19 or 20 or whatever, and he was a big dude, and it was really impressive to see what a year of pro ball turned that kid into. Listen, we can't gloss over your staff. You have managed to somehow trick some of the best guys in baseball into volunteering their time to help out these Bandits players. And you'll probably get in trouble if you don't name each one by name, but maybe you can talk about a couple of the guys who've been with you a while and what their past experience with and why they bring such value to the table with your players.
No, absolutely. I mean, so we have, and we keep. So Jeff Manto's been around our players and doesn't coach day to day because he's also a former big league player. Jeff Manto is the roving hitting instructor for the Baltimore Orioles now, but he spends a lot of time with our guys on the off season. And we also have Jesse Levis, who spends time. He's an ex-big leaguer who's a catching guru and works with a lot of our guys on the off season. But the day-to-day guys that we have, beside myself, we have John Cross, who does a phenomenal job. John Cross, played in college, but was a University of Pennsylvania baseball coach, coached at a couple of the area high schools. I mean, he's an attorney, and his passion is baseball, like mine is. I mean, we actually, this is not what we do for a living. We wish we could do this for a living, quite frankly. But he's just a phenomenal teacher and is very good at what he does. We have Greg Olinsky, who's been with us for many, many years and was actually a high-level college basketball player, but an unbelievable coach and knows the baseball game like nobody's business. And we have, alongside him, is Mike Gosner, who is actually an Orioles associate scout and has been in baseball and coached at many levels throughout his life, and is also a businessman. So we're really thankful to have those guys involved. And we have Vince Russamundo, who is a former college baseball player and coached at Holy Ghost Prep and is unbelievable with the young players with fundamentals and knowing how to manage people. Mike Reardon, who again the same thing. All these guys played in college, and several of them played professionally. And what we do is we keep the guys. I like our coaches to kind of also help out with different high school programs, so we can keep our ear to what's going on, especially with the parents and what their takeaways are and the things that are going on in our world. So we try to do a little of many things so that we keep our eye on things. As well as Mike Mahalik. We have he's been with us for many, many years. And now we have a lot of the younger players that played with us, Sean Coyle and Tommy Coyle, which is just amazing to me that they're not playing anymore. They played in AAA and they were on a 40-man roster, and Tommy played in AA, and they had very, very good careers. But it's just a testament to, Sean got hurt a few times, and then you don't catch a break, and you almost have to be healthy all the time, or you just don't get an opportunity at the big league level. It's just really, really difficult. And you're talking about guys that were spectacular, North Carolina recruits and Virginia recruits that played professionally for many years and now are going back for their degree, or they finished their degree because they signed as juniors. Those guys are all now helping on our staff. We have Greg Olinsky, young Greg Olinsky, just finished his University of Delaware career, and Nick Ferdinand, who played at University of Delaware and in the Phillies organization. So we have a real cross-section of older guys like myself and younger guys that are, 25 years old, 26 years old, that some are working in business, and their effort to give back, which makes me feel good, is to coach and mentor the younger players and show them that if you just try to coast through things, very few players have enough talent to go straight to high-level Division I or to play professionally. You have to work at it. You have to get stronger, quicker, faster every day. So these guys represent that kind of work ethic, and having them around really helps us, impart that knowledge.
That's pretty cool. Could you even imagine 20 years ago when you got this thing going, what it would be like today?
That's a great question. No. The world has changed. The world has changed. We now live in an environment of participation medals, right?
Yep.
And that is not a good way to do things, in my opinion. Look, winning, it's not winning at all costs, but you have to strive to win. You have to strive to achieve, I think. There's no winners and no losers in scenarios. At the end of the day, we all have to make money and pay our mortgage payment to own a house, to put a roof over our family's head. That's not a participation medal. That's something that you have to achieve. So that's what we try to impart, and work ethic and effort, and just being a good citizen too. That's a big part of it.
So is it difficult to convince today's parents of the success and the ability to place players 15 and 20 years ago, prior to these kids playing on college and pro fields every single weekend, prior to the showcase circuits that these kids are all accustomed to?
So is it different, you're saying?
Today's parents, I don't think they would even believe that a kid could have gotten signed 20 years ago without all these advantages. These kids are very lucky with the types of schedules that they're able to play, the type of facilities, the showcases, the tournaments. Unbelievable.
It's a great question. Rich, we had the amount of money we used to have to spend to get our kids visibility.
Yeah.
We'd have to fly to tournaments in Florida, fly to obviously Atlanta and Arizona and Nebraska, all over the place to get our kids seen. Mm-hmm. Now, there are showcase events. There's good and bad with everything, but for the most part, they're very, very good. And it gets kids to be visible. Now, the one thing that I will say, and here is the issue that I think we have as parents, I call it the 20% rule, right? Mm-hmm. I love my two sons. Mm-hmm. And any way you look at it, when I evaluate them as baseball players, I'm probably about 20% overboard.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I love them.
Yeah.
And pretty much that's the way it is with most parents, some even more. So you can't evaluate your own son really, really effectively or honestly. The way to do that is you need to go watch college games.
Oh boy!
I have people say, my son wants to go to North Carolina or Virginia, and no disrespect, but the kid's throwing 83 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. And And I said, have you ever watched those teams play?
It's a great question.
Is your son the best player on his high school team and the best player on his summer travel team? Okay, because that's who's playing on those teams. You know what I mean? And does he run a 6.5 60? Because that's what the infielders run on those teams and below. Okay, they don't run 7.0s. Okay, and first baseman. They didn't hit 2 home runs in high school. They hit 12 home runs. You know what I mean? So unless we watch, and you can go, I say this to our parents in Philadelphia. I mean, we can go see high academic. We can see Princeton University. We can see University of Pennsylvania. I mean, they're 20 minutes from Philly, right? We can go see St. Joe's University, Villanova. We can go see LaSalle University. We can see Rider University, University of Delaware. We can see Arcadia. We can see a lot of programs right here. And so I ask our parents to go watch, then look at the rosters and see where the kids come from, okay? Because our kids are not going to go play at University of Florida or Florida State, okay? Because they're not looking for our kids. Our kids don't play enough baseball. Maybe a pitcher here or there. We've had a few guys that play down there, and they 95-mile-an-hour pitcher, who had to make a decision, but they're not recruiting up here. But anyway, to get back to the question, the amount of travel and effort we had to put towards 10 years ago versus now, it's amazing. College coaches, have relationships with many of the travel programs and coaches, and they ask what guys they have. They have position needs. They will come see them at the different showcases and tournaments that they have out there. So the tools that you have today are just really incredible.
That's an interesting way, an interesting perspective that you have, because all I hear from people today is everything's so expensive, and it is. I get it. I agree with them, but you're saying to get that equivalent opportunity and exposure 10 plus years ago was actually way tougher. Because the reality today is, I can point you to a great camp or a great showcase that's probably within a couple hours drive of wherever you live. And there's going to be a bunch of college coaches there because that's the model we've moved to, which is great. I think it's an advantage for today's kids. It would be a really interesting conversation to have a current parent talk to a parent of a kid from 15 years ago and let them compare notes. Where do you see things going? What do you, if you had a crystal ball, because we all know what today's sort of environment is, and for the most part, I think it's pretty positive, but there's definitely some deficiencies. Events are getting maybe too big and too watered down. But where do you see things in 5 or 10 years in this world?
Well, where I see them and what I hope are two different things. But
okay, let's do both.
Where I see things moving a little more towards regional events. So let me give you a showcase scenario. And it was perfect because I had two sons that were very, very different. I had one that was extremely fast, 6'4" runner, and I had one that was a bigger, powerful guy, third baseman guy, and then a middle infielder, center fielder. Completely opposite players. So now I went through the showcase stuff with one of them. I did something a little different with the other. Here's the deal. If you're going to take your son to a showcase, I'm talking about a showcase where you're doing a pro workout and you're getting timed in the 60 and they shoot velocities on your throwing and then they watch you fielding and you take a couple swings and they're doing exit velocities and all that. If you do that, your son better be advanced, okay? Because here's what happens. I've seen more kids get written off at younger ages because they're not developed yet. And college coaches aren't looking for somebody who's going to develop 10 years from now, 5 years from now, because they need somebody who's going to be ready to go when they step on campus because, it's business. They need to be competitive. They need to win. They need to do well. So they're not recruiting late bloomers. as sad as that is, unless you can flat out run. If you can flat out run and you hit left-handed, you have a chance. Okay? If you can't run and you hit right-handed, you're going to have a bigger problem.
Mm-hmm.
So the showcases are one thing. The tournaments where they can see you play is more positive for those kids that may not showcase real well. And sadly, we all know that there's several kids, and we have them all the time, that are showcase players that look phenomenal. They throw the ball from the outfield, and they're throwing the ball 90 miles an hour, and they run, and there's 6-7 runners. And in the batting cage, boom, 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 line drive, balls in the gap. And then the game starts. And they don't make good contact. They're spinning off balls, rolling balls over. And that is, that's the problem. College coaches want to see you play. They want to see how you act. They want to see how you succeed and how you fail, because you're going to fail more in college than you do when you play in high school on travel ball.
Okay, so all right, so back to that question. Where are we going, and what is your hope for where we're going?
I think we're going to large regional events.
Okay.
I think that I'm starting to feel like we're going to those large regional events, and every single college is now doing team camps. Mm-hmm. And I wish we could do all of them.
Yeah.
And it's a great model. I mean, I first saw the team camp. Chris Finwood, who's a phenomenal coach down at Old Dominion, called us and said, "Hey, come down here. I want to try this out. It's we can do this. Give me X amount of dollars per player. Bring 2 of your teams down here, and I'll pay and put coaches on the field. They can interact with your guys and teach them and actually coach them, get to know them." And when I saw that, I went, "Oh my gosh, that was the greatest thing I ever saw." And
then it popped up in your hometown.
And then, I mentioned it to a good friend and great coach in Ryan Wheeler, who was coaching at Temple at the time, and now at St. Joe's University, and he brought it there, and now every team's doing it. So every program's doing it.
You may remember I played for Wheels 100 years ago now. So he's a good buddy of mine, and he took what maybe he saw from Finney, and he really has turned that into a great concept to the point where I think he's had coaches look at his effectiveness and try and replicate it, and it seems like it's hard to do well, easy to do, hard to do well. But it's a great concept, and with the recent recruiting rule changes, I think all the programs were basically throwing their hat in the ring for these team camps almost instantly. So those seem to be working really well. Can keep going with your thought though on the where we're going and what your hopes are, because I want to get to your hopes definitely. I want to take a short break from this call to talk about my day job, video. In 2019, if you aren't leveraging film to market your guys, you're doing them a disservice. So where do I come in? Well, filming one guy on your iPhone and texting it to coaches or posting it on Twitter is easy. But filming 25, 50, 100, or 200 is hard. And that's why you haven't done it already. That's why smart coaches like Coach Amaro partner with Play in School. We do all the work. We come to you. We can film 100 guys in the time it would take you to film just 4 or 5. That's why our guest today partners with us. If you'd like to see every team we partner with, visit playinschool.com/teams. If you'd like to see Coach Amaro's Philly Bandits from our last filming session in January, visit playinschool.com/bandits. Now back to the call.
So where we're going is we're going to have an event, and they're going to play 3 games, and you're playing 3 games. Here's when you're playing them, and you're finished. So it doesn't matter if we win or lose, right?
Yeah.
I don't like that. So what we do is we also play in a league, and then we also play games during the week where you try to win the games.
Okay.
When you have those kind of showcase events, you need to get every player, everybody's pitching. You need to get each guy throw 3 or 4 innings.
Sure.
You need to get everybody at bats. So it's not designed, to see somebody see how long they can go. We never see a guy throw 70, 80 pitches on our team.
Of course not.
Because I got to throw 2 guys every day.
Yeah.
So it's good and bad because they can't build. They can't get better, stronger, and more resilient because they're not throwing enough, quite frankly. We do get at bats because we play a lot of games. But that not trying to win, nobody's playing games where I got to try to win to play another one and win to play another one. The younger age groups do.
Yep.
They still play those games, and they play in the 8:00 game 5 hours away and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the older guys are not.
So give us the hope. What's the hope of what you'd love to see coming down the line for this age group?
Well, first of all, I like the fact that more and more events, and I like to see kids play grade specific, right? So 16U, they're all 20. What are they? 2022s and some 2021 graduates. Keep the graduates on the same event, because what I've seen is so many parents will want their son to play up and want the 16U to play in the 17U, and then college coaches are watching and they watch a game and they don't realize that one kid is actually a year younger and he gets missed. So I'd like to see events become even more specific to a grade, because then and because it's not about me. Okay? It's about, I want to make it easier for the college coaches to know who our guys are and know what their age is. Not age, but what their grade is, because age doesn't really matter. So that's what my hope is, that, because I want to make things easier. I mean, that's why I do the things I do. That's why I love what you do with video. I put my video, everybody, up on the website because I want them to be seen. Everything that we try to do is to get our kids exposure and to make it easy for the college coach to then go to our site and say, you know what, I remember that kid, Davy Jones, but I can't, let me go on the site. Oh, yeah, that's right. I liked his swing. You know what I mean? That's what I hope.
Well,
I hope that we keep it great.
I think you're talking about making things easy. That is one of the huge positives for the current travel ball circuit that we see today, is that you're making it easier for a coach who's on a limited budget to see a ton of guys in one place. So that is definitely a positive. The downfall is when you have an event with 50 or 100 or 300 teams. Things maybe you're not easier because those teams might be watered down. So I guess you got to give some and take some. Let me ask you a question. I asked this of another guest recently, and I think I know the answer for myself, and I know he kind of agreed with me. How do you find yourself, and you're a marketing guy, you're a communication guy, how do you find yourself communicating most often with college coaches? What are you on the phone, email, text, DMs? What do you find? What platform are you going to the most right now?
Well, I use all of them.
Yeah,
I use all of them, but it depends. Certain coaches just want to bang out a quick text. Hey, Dave, tell me about this guy. Quick text. Some fewer on email, and when somebody's really, really interested, then, we pick up the phone and we talk because they want to know about the character of the kid and the kind of toughness and mental and all that kind of stuff. So really you have to use them all, but texting for the most part, in that, hey, Dave, when's Joey throwing? When is, where, what field are you at? Where are you going to go? Where are you playing next? So text, really.
It's incredible. That in my day-to-day, that's what I find. That's where I find that most of the communication has taken place as well. It's amazing because it wasn't that long ago where I can remember myself going, text? No way. I'm not going to do that. If you need me, call me. And then of course I started texting. And then I started seeing these little these little pictures, these little emojis, they called them. I go, what is that? No, just spell the word out. I don't need a picture. And of course, everybody's using emojis now, and those other little, they call them GIFs. But yeah,
right.
texting is the deal within the baseball community. Now, I'm kind of curious about, that's more of an external communication with those college coaches. Do you guys utilize anything for internal communication as far as getting schedules out or letting players know, time and place to be at a field, or perhaps, pitching rotations, anything like that, or maybe just communicating with parents? What are you guys using for internal communication?
So I'm supposed to be a technology guy too, and we don't use it effectively enough. But our coaches will communicate via text, so they know we're text group or group me, so that everybody's on the same page. And the kids always have their own. We have a player group, so the coach can get information to the players right away. And then also for the younger guys, 16U, 15U, those guys don't drive, so you need to make sure parents are included. If they're not, then it's a disaster. So we find that kids aren't using email, which is not good, because the worst calls I get are, "Hey, Dave," or an email or a text.
Yep.
"Hey, Dave, I called, I emailed Joey. I wanted to get some information on him, and, doesn't call me back or email me back." I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it's a school that the kid wants to go to.
Yeah.
And I have to, we'll have a meeting actually next week and talk about, listen, you guys need to check your emails. Yeah. Emails matter. You need to respond to them. Do not respond 3 days later, because if you do, you're out. And, so email, you got to be available. Email, text, as well as, the social media avenues with the Twitter.
But internally,
Instagram.
You guys have used both just texting, regular texting through the phone. You put together a group, and that's easy. And then you also use what's called Group Me.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. I tell you, it's a topic I'm curious about and interested in. I think there's a lot of different apps or platforms that try to solve this problem, and it is a problem. I mean, if you get rained out in Georgia and you can't get a hold of all your guys easily and know that your guy saw that text or communication, you may show up with half your team at a different location. It's a space that I don't think any tech company has won that world yet.
They haven't, and it's you're so right, Rich. I mean, it is so necessary, and I don't, because the Group Me, what I don't like is, as a guy who gets 600-700 emails a day, 150 texts a day, and 30 to 40 voicemails, I can't even get through all that, and actually have any kind of job. So I try to streamline. But when I see a text come in from a number I don't know, I don't usually respond to it.
Yeah.
Because I have to pick and choose, right?
Yeah, sure.
And that's what I don't like about the Group Me, because it's always some kind of odd number that it's coming from, and you don't know what it is. So somebody needs to fix that.
Perhaps there's a listener who's been using a tool that they love and they'd be willing to share with us, because I think that piece is super important. And I know things are slipping through the cracks, like the story you just told. The email thing drives me bananas. Teenagers simply can't be bothered to check their email for some reason. I don't know why. Well, listen, we can't go all day with this. I do want to transition to another topic. You've been working on a new project, and I've had the luxury of kind of getting behind the scenes a little bit, called On the Radar Baseball. And I was hoping you could describe what it is, what people will see when they go there, and why you did it, and what you hope happens with the folks who are using it.
And I appreciate that. So we, at our marketing agency, we solve issues and challenges that companies have, right? Maybe they need a new logo, new design, business plan. We work with many large companies and small, and we help them acquire new customers, and we also help them retain existing customers. So we happen to be brainstorming, and one of our guys said, "Dave, why do we not build something that'll solve a problem in the recruiting world, but make it simple, make it a subscription-based program, make it reasonably priced?" And what we found is, and I had two different instances where players and families were working out a deal, and they were getting their offer and scholarship money and everything related to that young man playing at a university, right? Everything's great.
Okay.
25%, one was a 35% offer. Well, what happened in both of those scenarios was these parents had gone to Barnes & Noble and bought one of these books, Barron's books, gone online, and they had in their mind that the school was $44,000, all in, tuition, room and board, the whole thing. Guess what? That was 4 years old.
I can see it coming a mile away. Go ahead.
$12,000 more.
Oh.
And the other one was $16,000 difference.
Oh.
And I said, that's it. I said, here's what we're going to do. So I had our team compile information over literally over a 6-month period of time. I had them compile all the important information from every college that plays baseball. Division I, Division II, Division III, junior colleges, where we will eventually have NAIA schools. So it's over 1,350 colleges, and the information that we have, you can sort it by division, by league, by state, any way you want. You can look at the information. You can print it, pull it up, and you click on the college. It'll bring up tuition, in-state, out-of-state. It will tell you how many students are enrolled, what's the student-teacher ratio, but more importantly, it will tell you what the GPA is, the average person that gets into that school, the grade point average, SATs, ACTs, and all of the above. And then it will also give you, the coaches' information. We don't want to bombard coaches. This isn't a recruiting tool. It's a recruiting tool, but it's not to bother any college coaches. It's to give you information so that you know exactly what these schools cost and you can target your process. So beyond that, we realized that there's a lot of questions and things that people don't understand with regard to college baseball. Okay, one thing is, since our folks are database driven, they wanted to say, hey, you know what if I put my grades in and then it'll spit out all the schools that we could, that would match with my, my ability? I don't want to do that. Here's why. Because if you're a very good baseball player, the bar lowers, okay? Very few players are actually regular admit students.
Yeah, you're speaking to one.
Okay?
Yep.
And quite frankly, first of all, I could not go to Duke University today because you need a 1550 to get into that school, and it's absurd,
exactly.
Right?
Yep.
So, but they may take somebody who has a 1250 because they can get a certain amount of guys in the school. So that's why we didn't want to start grouping anybody, because then it would deter some people that are able to go to those higher academic schools with slightly lower grades. So that we don't have in the program. But we then decided here's recruiting information, a recruiting guide, gives some really good information, and it continues to be updated, gives a recruiting schedule. It tells you what a dead period means, what a quiet period is. You don't want to go to a showcase or an event when college coaches can't go there. Well, guess what? It happens all the time, but you don't know it. Okay? So this gives you that information. It then tells you how there's 11.7 scholarships in a fully funded program. It gives you a lot of detail. And then, I discussed with professional coaches and others and said, what do you look for by position? And this gives an idea of what some college coaches look for by each position. So by position report provides that, as well as what I think is most important, just a basic personal profile form that you fill in, has your own personal profile information and a picture and a link to a video, and you can email it, you can print it out, you can send it, so that you have something succinct that you can then add all of your stuff to, all of your credentials to, all of your time stats, to that a college coach can have on file that they may want to attach to, the recruiting forms that you fill out on their websites. So all of this information, and it's updated. We constantly update it. It's like $129. It's the cost of half of a showcase, and you get, you can buy it, and you have access to it for a year. If you don't want to continue, you don't. If you do, second year it'll be a little less. But it is a really, really good tool that could potentially save you a lot of money by you knowing exactly what things cost and what's available out there.
Well, having kind of gotten a sneak peek at it, I'll tell you a couple things. The story or that problem that sort of inspired you guys to do this to begin with is one of the biggest, probably the biggest pieces of this puzzle is old information. Think about those people who printed that book that parent went to Barnes & Noble and bought. By the time the ink is dry, that information's outdated. And so,
$95 they paid for that.
Oh my gosh. So. As long as you guys are able to keep the data current, that information will be worth the price of the membership. There have been others that have done this, and just some guy in their living room, and they think they can just Google each one of the schools and then grab it and punch it in, but it's never updated. Then all of a sudden it's 12 or 18 or 24 months out of date, and that's the difference of $10,000 or $15,000 in tuition in some cases.
Exactly.
Number two, for me, you guys, and you were very clear, you said you're not giving out the coach's contact information. However, what I noticed is you do have a link over to each program's athletic page.
Yes.
That's a time saver. That's a huge time saver. If I'm able to just hop in one spot and go to athletic websites, again, that's probably worth the price of admissions right there. Because a lot of this stuff, I'll tell you, and I deal one-on-one with families for 10 years now. None of this stuff that we deal with in recruiting is necessarily complicated or that terribly hard to figure out. But what it requires is kind of a plan. And for most kids, unless you're that Nolan Jones type of first, second round type of guy, just jumps off the page at you, most everybody else who's just a normal guy like I was, you got to put in some work off the field. And so if we can figure out ways to make that work off the field that much easier, then that's going to help everybody. It's going to help mom and dad. It's going to help the player. So that's for me. That's the biggest two things right there. That's pretty cool. And we'll put a link. I hear everybody else on the other podcast, they say we'll put a link in the show notes. I don't really know what show notes are yet, but we'll put a link to On the Radar Baseball.
That's it. That's all it is. Yeah, OnTheRadarBaseball.com.
We're going to put a link to it, and I think I even have a coupon code we'll put out there for our listeners.
Great idea. That's
right there. This has been awesome. The Bandits are a really special team. The crew you've got around you, and I've been around your crew now for several years. It's a neat thing to pull that kind of talent from your coaching staff and your players without this need to grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. You can tell there's a lot of love, and that nobody's there, for the paycheck. And again, hey, we're going to have lots of people, myself included. My living is based on baseball, and I feel very lucky to do that. But it's pretty refreshing to see the folks in the Bandits organization who are, for the most part, they're all doing it just as a way to give back. So that's pretty cool. Now I want to end with one question, hoping and figuring there may be some young guys who are listening to this who are looking to get into travel ball, or maybe they're already in travel ball and they are looking to kind of progress in their travel ball coaching careers, what is some advice that you would give that coach to try to get the maximum out of their travel ball experience?
The coach to coach the player?
Yeah,
from that perspective?
Yeah, any advice that you think would help them in this world, in this space?
The single most important thing to do as a baseball player, an aspiring baseball player, is to work on his strength and agility, period. Mm-hmm. Because the one thing that you cannot be prepared for is when you go to the college baseball program that you choose and chooses you, the amount of work and the amount of effort and strength and endurance and all that they work on, and a lot of it to be mentally tough, is something that you're not going to be used to. Mm-hmm. So it's best to be prepared and be as quick, strong, and agile as you possibly can, because more than being physically in condition, you want to be on the field. Injury is no good, and it ends careers. So be as fit as you can, so that you have an opportunity to be on the field and then produce.
Now,
so that's the one thing I would say.
And for coaches, what kind of advice would you give coaches in the travel ball world to help them progress their coaching careers?
Well, first of all, they need to connect with the player, and it's difficult. So in a business environment, you have to work through customers, and some good, bad otherwise, and some difficult, and some you like to be with. With young men, you have to be consistent when you coach. So if somebody's going to be late, you have to handle it a certain way. But be consistent in the things that you do coaching-wise. But every single player is an individual, so you need to manage them differently. Mm. Some kids need a little push. Some kids are a little lazy. Some kids, if you push them, they will retreat because they're not that kind of guy. So you need to identify what will motivate the young man that you're working with, and know that each one of them are individuals. People don't communicate anymore, right? The kids don't. Mm. They don't talk because they're texting. Sadly, a lot of them don't know how to communicate. So by you as a coach sitting down, spending 5 minutes talking one-on-one with each of your players and imparting whatever piece of information you think is valuable, and most of it should surround playing with intensity, okay? People don't do that. But I can tell you, if you go watch our ball clubs play, we may not win, perfect game nationals, but our kids will be desirable because they'll be running around like crazy men, and they run 90 feet every time, and no matter what, they do things as if somebody's got a clock on them. And guess what? They do. Mm-hmm. They do have a clock on them. So, playing with intensity, hustling as much as you can. And I know you strike out, you get upset, you start throwing your helmet and your bat. That's not desirable, right? Coaches then think you're not a guy that has, can handle failure. So don't do it. You got to internalize it, have the poker face, and get off the field, and then go make the next play. So that's the things I would mention to young coaches. Talk to your players. Make sure that they play with intensity. Make sure that until they're in the big leagues, they can't wear their uniforms over their spikes and wear them like a clown. Okay? When you're in the big leagues, you can be a clown. You want to be Manny Machado and be a clown, you can do that in the big leagues, all right? Unfortunately. But until you get to the big leagues, you have to conform, okay? You have to wear your uniform properly. You have to wear your hat straight, not sideways. You know what I mean? They're the things that I would say as a coach you should make sure that each player does consistently.
I love it. David, I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. I think and I hope that somebody takes away one little piece of info from our conversation. And even if nobody's listening, guess what? I enjoyed it. And that's
I did too.
That's really all that matters. And what a lot of folks probably don't know is that we have these conversations probably once a quarter. Yep. Usually they're just not recorded. So this has been fun. And is there a spot, whether it's your website or maybe social media, that if somebody wants to reach out to you and ping you, is there a place that somebody could hook up with you?
Absolutely. I mean, I could be reached through our website, Bandits Baseball Team. So banditsbaseballteam.com. Bandits Baseball has a Twitter account as well as Facebook. And then I have a Twitter account personally called Philly Taco.
Best Twitter handle in the baseball world.
Philly Taco.
Philly Taco. I'll link all those up wherever I end up putting the links. And Coach, I appreciate your time. You can get back to your corporate life for the rest of the afternoon.
Rich, as always, great to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
See ya. I'm having so much fun bringing these shows to you each week. If you'd like to recommend a coach for the show, please don't hesitate to shoot me a note at rich@playinschool.com or DM me on Twitter @playinschool. Again, my name is Rich Prado. I'm the founder of Play in School. My goal is to continue to create products and services that add value to you, the travel ball coaches, your players, and their parents. Visit playinschool.com to see some of the ways we're doing that. Or better yet, let's set up a call. Until next time, thank you for listening to Travel Ball Talk.